Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Tuesday, October 19th, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the U.S. It's 4:30 p.m. in London. In Mexico City, it's 10:30 a.m. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. The Washington Post is reporting just before we came on the air that shots have been fired at the Pentagon, and that Pentagon security has shut down several streets and parking lots in the area. That's all we know right now. The cable TV networks have yet to pick it up, so we don't know if it's anything more than just that. We'll go to our main news. It's Typhoon Maggie. Here's a picture of it. If you're living in southeast China, you're very aware of this. It's taking dead aim at Hong Kong right now. It has winds of about 130 miles an hour right now. It's picked up strength over the South China Sea there. When it hit the Philippines, as you can see off to the right, it was a Category 5. It had winds of about 140 to 150 miles per hour. And according to EQUACAT, it may have done economic damages as high as $600 million. The storm made landfall over Cagayan and Isabela provinces in northern Luzon. It's the strongest cyclone of 2010 so far. In Chechnya, insurgents stormed the parliament in the capital of Grozny this morning. They killed at least 2 police officers and 1 parliamentary official, and 3 of the insurgents themselves were killed. It was a very brazen attack. One insurgent set off a bomb at the gates of the parliament complex, blowing himself up. At least 2 other gunmen ran into the building, shouting "God is great" in Arabic as they opened fire. Chechnya, of course, has been battling an Islamic insurgency for years. The Russian Interior Minister Nurgilev, is in Grozny today, in fact, holding talks about violence. The Interior Minister said that, as always, speaking of the insurgents, as always, they failed. Unfortunately, we were not able to avoid the loss of life. The situation we saw today is extremely rare. Here, there is stability and security. I don't know where he thinks he is. In Christchurch, New Zealand, there was a 5.0 earthquake, an aftershock, less than 2 months after the big 7.0 quake. You can see where it's pictured here. Off on the left, just a little yellow sliver of the 7.0 quake. The quake hit at about 11:32 a.m. local time today. It was about 6 miles southwest of the city. It caused power cuts, evacuations, and delays at the Christchurch International Airport. In France, the situation is going from worse to worse. Strikes and protests are taking place across the country. Today's actions that have 500,000 protesters in Paris have disrupted planes, trains, and automobiles throughout the country, as well as school and postal services. Clashes have broken out outright with the police. The President of France has pledged to crack down on troublemakers. Police and protesters battled in the Paris suburb of Nanterre, and in the Paris suburb of Montes-la-Jolie, a number of cars were overturned and set on fire. The Senate vote tomorrow is the big vote on advancing the retirement age from 60 to 62. The President of France has been holding a summit with German and Russian leaders. He's leaving the summit as we speak and is returning home to Paris to supposedly restore calm in the nation. Remember that before he was president, Nicolas Sarkozy was the Interior Minister, who was reviled by ethnic groups and immigrants in France because of the hard line he took against them during civil disturbances several years ago. We'll see what happens in the next few days. Well, in China, there will not be a repeat of the Chilean miner miracle. 37 Chinese miners have been killed. They've been trapped since Saturday when a gas explosion brought them a ton of rock down on top of them. The explosion occurred in Yuzhou City, about 430 miles south of Beijing. The blast was at the Pingyu coal and electric mine. Last year, at the same mine, 23 miners were killed. The stock market in New York is down about 126 points. Bank of America came in with a $7.3 billion loss. That has everybody's attention. We'll go to a word from our sponsors and come back with the rest of the news.
Design for peace.
The Nebraska invasion is now spreading into Bavaria. Warren Buffett's stake in Munich Re has crossed the 10% threshold, and Mr. Buffett says that he may buy more. He keeps insisting that his investment is financial rather than strategic. He now owns about $2.94 billion U.S. worth of Munich Re's stock based on the current market capital. Munich Re reiterated wishful thinking, hopefully, or perhaps I should say, that Mr. Buffett does not plan to influence the company's management or its dividend policy. There was no spokesperson immediately available from Berkshire Hathaway. An analyst said that Buffett's move is likely only aimed at finding a stable investment for his cash. Analysts had previously suggested that Buffett's investment in Munich Re could indicate higher reinsurance prices in the future. The billionaire's investments in other reinsurers like Swiss Re has also caught people's attention because he owns wholly Berkshire Hathaway. A spokesman from Munich Re, CEO Nicholas von Baumhardt's office, said that he's very pleased about every shareholder. Back in April, Mr. von Baumhardt said that he welcomed Mr. Buffett's investment as an indication that Mr. Buffett approved of Munich Re's strategy. Well, Ascot Underwriting is in the news. They're a wholly owned subsidiary of AIG. They're going to de-empt. They're going to reduce their capacity from £600 million for 2011 down to £600 million in 2011 from £700 million this year. This, of course, is in response to current market conditions. The de-emption has been approved by Lloyd's. Ascot's CEO said that in light of the prevailing market conditions, we've taken a key strategic decision of reducing our underwriting capacity from $700 million to £600 million. We remain fully committed to providing the best service to meet the needs of our brokers and clients. Back in September, Richard Ward at Lloyd's said that only 3 syndicates had announced de-emptions, but that he hoped to see more coming through. As everybody is saying, you have to stick to the underwriting guidelines and don't start writing more business just simply because rates are low. So this is positive news for Lloyd's. Our friends in Beirut, Chedid Re and Price Forbes made an announcement today. Middle Eastern reinsurance broker Chedid Re has announced an energy business partnership with Lloyd's broker Price Forbes. This is according to Richard Banks at Insurance Day. The deal will see the two companies share expertise regarding placement of upstream and downstream hydrocarbon energy business coming out of the Middle East and North Africa. The agreement affects both insurance and reinsurance. Fareed Chedid, chairman of Chedid Re, pictured here, said the sharing of expertise between our companies will further reinforce the leading positions of Price Forbes and Partners and Chedid in the Middle East and North Africa region. From its origins in Cyprus in 1998, Chedid has grown to boast offices in Beirut, Dubai, Limassol, and Riyadh. It's also going to open an office in Qatar imminently. Price Forbes traces its brand back to 1863. Here's an interesting story, something to remember. There's no inflation anywhere on the landscape. The Federal Reserve Bank is looking for it under every rock because as soon as it comes, it's going to be bringing a big sigh of relief. However, the reinsurance industry is very concerned about it. According to Swiss Re, inflation is at the top of insurance companies' risk agenda. Low interest rates, of course, reduce what insurers can earn from investments to meet payouts. It's interestingly enough, low interest rates have lasted longer than anticipated, hitting insurers' investment returns, and according to Swiss Re, could persist even longer. In Europe, this would mean that insurance companies would have to make their profits from underwriting, not from investing. Insurers can mitigate their impact, said this study that came from Swiss Re, by adjusting premium rates. But sometimes that's not possible in a competitive environment. Yes, that's true. The study also said that insurers can modify insurance contracts to shorten the tail of business, or they can buy more reinsurance to protect against inflation surprises. Some of this stemmed out of the meeting at Monte Carlo last month when the industry began to speak about a double whammy of falling prices and declining investment returns. And they do understand that barring a catastrophe big enough to sponge up the industry's excess capacity, there seems to be little chance of a respite soon. Reinsurance prices, of course, typically jump after large catastrophes as claims eat into the capitals of insurers, freeing those who remain the ability to charge more. Well, there was some interesting news from Beijing this morning just before the market opened. A Chinese interest rate hike pushed the dollar higher, stocks lower. Investors were scratching their head wondering whether some U.S.-Chinese collaboration had taken place to ease tensions ahead of a critical meeting of finance ministers this weekend. The People's Bank of China announced that it was raising its key one-year interest rate by 0.25 percentage point beginning tomorrow. The main response in the market was to send the dollar higher. One theory is that the Chinese monetary authorities are allowing the yuan to appreciate more markedly against the dollar in return for the Federal Reserve limiting the amount of money it's going to inject into the American economy. The rate hike comes just one day after Treasury Secretary Geithner insisted that the Obama administration was not looking for the dollar to fall in an effort to shore up economic growth. Well, we'll snicker at that. Geithner did say, though, that no country can devalue its way to prosperity. Whether he was talking about the effects of a dollar devaluation on our country, or that he was talking about the effects of the already devalued yen and his, not yen, yuan, and his opinion on China, we don't know. Well, for our final story, I wasn't going to touch this, but it's simply too interesting not to. Let's bring this picture up. These two old fools need no introduction. They're both approximately 75 years old. Actually, they may not quite be that old, but they're certainly getting there. On the left is, of course, Mick Jagger, and on the right is Keith Richards. Mr. Richards has written a biography, an autobiography, for which he's been paid $7 million. It's going to be called My Life, and it's going to be released later this month. In it, he reveals that his boyhood friend, who he has known since the age of 4, Mr. Jagger, has actually become unbearable, and he refers to him frequently as Your Majesty. The